name is FancyS17 and I'll be your YouTuber today. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be taking a look at the history and development of the T-29, T-30, and T-34. So essentially, these tanks were built between 1944 and developed in 1945 by the pressed steel car company Detroit Arsenal. So this tank was basically, the answers to the Tiger II. There were a couple variants of this tank known as the T-29, T-29E1, T-29E2, and the T-29E3. I really didn't look into the different types of variants of these tanks, just the straight, original one built. I will put pictures up through the video talking about the tanks, obviously, respectively. So this thing weighed a lot. It weighed 64 tons, combat loaded, which means it had all of its ammunition, its machine gun ammo, its tank shells, all 6 crew members in the T-29. Just a really, really crazy tank. And like I said, it was the answer to the German Tiger II. It stood at 10 feet tall, which the height is measured by the top of the cupola. So, it wasn't, everyone thinks these tanks are gigantic, and obviously a 10-foot tall tank is pretty big, but, it's not as big as a lot of people, seem to think tanks are. Tanks aren't outstandingly tall, unless you're talking about the, FV4005, or even the experimental tanks that were used to test the T-29's armament. We made a video about that prior. So I like covering the basics. So first we're going to take a look at the engine. It was a Ford GAC engine, which featured new driving controls for the tank, obviously due to its size. Going over more of its development, like I said, in short, it was the American Tiger II. It was meant to completely counter this vehicle, and it was proposed, though it was not produced. It was not ready in time for the European front. And that's unfortunate because the tank, it was pretty good, pretty fun. It's fun to play in Blitz. I'm not sure what it would have done in real life. I'd assume it would be underpowered. That kind of seemed to be the major difficulty with all super heavies, even the Germans, prime example of that. So it was essentially just a taller T-26E3 chassis with a new turret fitted with the massive 105mm T5 cannon. America had a very fun way of mounting tank turrets and guns. Essentially, they took field guns and anti-aircraft guns and just slapped them in the tanks and said, "This will do great, I promise you." And going into some of the turret, obviously, I believe it had a 4-inch steel turret, was the thickness on that. I didn't write it down, so don't hold me to that, but it was pretty thick. The turret was much thicker than the hull. The hull was only 102mm thick, whereas the turret was just crazy. So the reason these turrets have quote-unquote ears, which you see on the side of this turret, is actually what's known as a coincidence rangefinder. I'm not actually sure why it got that name, but it was basically, it went from protruding from either side of the turret. Basically, it displayed 2 images to the gunner to properly associate range from distance of the tank, and it was kind of crazy. Those kinds of rangefinders were utilized on artillery. They were utilized on naval combat with their larger guns. It was pretty much just a way to double check, you got this long reload, got this big gun, you want to make sure you're as accurate as you physically can get your weapon to be. And just going a little bit more into the development now, the proposal was for 1,200 tanks, but only one was built, with a partial prototype built as the number 2. So we're going to discuss a little bit how this tank plays in Blitz. My phone started dying again. I've definitely been having some phone battery issues lately. I seem to only do my recording when my phone's below like 30%. But this tank plays, in my opinion, exactly like the T-34 and exactly like the T-30. These tanks, they carry very, very, very similar turrets, and they all have the same hull, with the exception of maybe an engine change, or slightly thicker, or maybe slightly slower. I know the newer models did have new engines and upgraded modules. In real life, I don't actually own the T-30. I'm going up that route, but I really do not like the T-28 prototype. Just my opinion. These tanks hold down beasts, and this T-29 player right here, he's having one hell of a game. He is the main reason this team is winning, and it's unfortunate. You know, you can only carry your team so much, and this is a prime example of just teams sucking, like horribly bad. He shouldn't have had to do any of this, and the enemy team was no better, in my opinion. They were all huddled up by Spawn, which made no sense. He got a very nice bounce there, and just rams. You know, with your heavier tanks like this, you can get away with ramming and not lose a lot of hit points. But like I was saying, hold down monster. You want to make sure you're using your gun mantlet to block a bit, simply off the fact that, you know, people will load Pramo, and if you turn your turret slightly, they can pen your cheeks. You know, I'm still rocking the birthday camo on the T-29 from a couple years ago. I did speed this part up for the T-34 because this video is already long as is, and it's just going to be discussing some more bits and bobbles about the tanks. So the T-29, the T-30, and the T-34 were all developed at the same time. Since they were using the same chassis, they experimented with different gun sizes. They were practically identical chassis-wise, although the turret bustle for the T-30 was actually, you know, there was more armor there because of the massive weight of the gun. The T-34 was the modern answer to the T-30. It featured a smaller gun, which was the 120mm M1AA gun. Basically, they just slapped a whole ass anti-aircraft gun on the front of this tank, and it just further increased the firepower of the T-29. Whereas the T-30 featured a 155mm T-7 gun, which required a second loader to assist them in firing this weapon, which bumped the crew count up to 7 instead of 6, which would be your driver, commander, gunner, 2 loaders, machine gunner, and I think there was a radio operator in there somewhere. I'm not too sure, but I didn't actually have that specific number in mind. Crew count's not really my thing. I just like looking at these things from a historical standpoint. You're going to see the true firepower of the T-34. It has superb standard penetration, and its APCR is even better. This gun will punch through everybody. That Emil 1's pretty much butter to him with APCR. These tanks are fun. My win rate is actually horrible in the T-34 because I used to play it when I didn't know how, so I just tanked out. I think I only have 7 games in it. My win rate is so bad. Kind of like the Scorpion G. Had no idea how to play the Scorpion G. I have a lot of tanks that just have horrible win rate because I haven't played them properly, knowing how to play them. I played them years ago when they first came out, or just, I'm not the best at this game. I'm not going to lie to anybody about that. I'm using replays because I don't trust myself too much for playing proper games. If you're a YouTuber, you understand how painful, just add 6 more paints to that, how painful it is to sit down, record a video, and commentate it. I'm doing replays because it's easier for me to commentate. I don't want to live record and try to speak at the same time because there's no point in it. Not Droodles. Droodles is his own thing. It's just I'm not very good with these tanks because I'm not very good at hold down. I'm very good at side scraping. In my opinion, I absolutely love side scraping. I enjoy Russian tanks, but I do not like the 252. Just hate it. It's boring. So you're going to see here for this T-34, he's just doing his best. Beta does a fantastic job this game. He really wants to support these tanks, and I think the game wouldn't have ended the way it did if that Emil 2 didn't push out really, really stupid like he did. He pushed out in front of that medium tank, and the Defender Mark 1 is just a solid British tank. It, the reload, obviously, but you just pump out damage in that. That is a solid autoloader with a very trolley balanced turret. The KPZ right there, not gonna judge him. I don't like that tank, and I'm a smooth brain heavy driver, and I don't like that tank. That tank annoys me so much. And this Celestial just rips into Beta for no reason, like calls him a moron. It doesn't make sense. The dude's not dead yet. He's a one shot, yeah, but he's not dead yet. Beta's really smart when he comes to playing, and this KPZ, I think, probably plays as brain dead as I do. He just kind of sits there, really, really confused, really not sure what he's doing. They're both one-shots. My opinion, all the KPZ has to do is land a splash of HE next to Beta or directly on him, and he'll clear him. That gun's alpha is capable of doing that with that caliber. Same thing with Beta. Beta can do the same thing. Their caliber, your average damage for your gun is 400. So your HE is going to do maybe around 200-300 damage if you hit a spot that isn't red. Bounce it, maybe get a high roll off the side or top of his tank. So maybe you hit his turret, splashes down into his, the front, right above the driver hatch. I don't know. HE, it's upsetting to see that people don't use HE properly. I'm not going to judge Beta because Beta does a fantastic job here. He's trying to bait him with his tracks, get him to shoot because he has the shorter reload. So even if the KPZ were to fire and Beta were to miss, all he has to do is smack adrenaline and he'll out reload the dude because the KPZ has a 14 or 15 second reload and he only has a 10-second reload. But 11, same difference at that point. They're not very different, in my opinion. But 1 second is 1 second, and that'll really kill you. I think at this point the KPZ basically goes brain dead. He pulls a fancy and just doesn't look back at all. That's a pet peeve of mine. If you're gonna push back and you know someone's pushing you, look directly backwards, the direction that you want to fire, because you know he's coming out after you. So why wouldn't you do it? Like I said, just a fantastic game here by Beta. Good buddy of mine. Really been helping me support the channel. And that KPZ, 42% with 31,000 wins or battles. Just yikes. It's just kind of upsetting to look at all this stuff. But that's going to be it about the tanks for me. We're going to take a look at the story here. The Viking, it's okay. It's got some spaced armor. It's whatever. I got it from crates. Was kind of disappointed, but it's just a slightly worse Emil with the mobility. As a smooth brain heavy driver, I recommend this bundle if you want a quote-unquote stat pad with the 252, but I like the T2020. It's my enjoyable tank, my little baby. I have 55% win rate in it after 85 battles. There's my really crappy stats, don't pay any attention to that. But, that's going to be it from me. Really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting the channel and watching my videos, and, I really appreciate it. So stay cool, stay frosty. I'll see you in the next one.